What if the real reason you keep getting angry is not the world, but the way your mind reacts to it? Every single day, something small sets you off. A careless comment, a disrespectful tone, someone doing something they shouldn't. At first, it feels justified. Then the anger lingers, and hours later, you're still carrying it. Here's the hard truth Stoic philosophy forces you to face. People don't make you angry. Events don't steal your peace. What hurts you is the meaning you attach to what just happened. You were never meant to control other people, their behavior, or the chaos around you. The Stoics understood that trying to do so only creates frustration, resentment, and exhaustion. Real power begins the moment you stop fighting reality and start commanding your response to it. This is not about suppressing emotions or pretending to be calm. It's about mastering the single inner move that breaks anger at its root. If you're tired of being triggered, drained, and reactive, stay with me. 1. Anger is not caused by people. It is created inside. Most people believe their anger comes from the outside, from rude people, from unfair situations, from things not going the way they want. That belief feels natural. It feels obvious, and yet it is completely wrong. According to Stoic philosophy, no person has the power to inject anger into you. No situation has the authority to disturb your inner state. What actually creates anger is something far more subtle and far more dangerous. Your judgment about what just happened. Think about this carefully. 2 people experience the same event. One explodes with rage. The other remains calm. If the event itself caused anger, both would react the same way, but they don't. The difference is not the situation. The difference is the story each person tells themselves about it. Anger is not an automatic reaction. It is a decision your mind makes in a split second. Someone interrupts you and your mind says, "I'm being disrespected." Someone disagrees with you and your mind says, "They're attacking me." Someone ignores you and your mind says, "I don't matter." The moment you accept that story as truth, anger is born. The Stoics were brutally honest about this. They taught that emotions are not things that happen to you. They are things you participate in. You don't feel anger because the world is cruel. You feel anger because you interpret events as personal threats, insults, or injustices. And this is where most people lose their power. They believe anger is justified. They believe it proves strength. They believe it protects their dignity. In reality, anger does the opposite. It hands control over to whatever triggered you. The moment someone can make you angry, they are no longer reacting to you. You are reacting to them. That is not strength. That is surrender. Stoicism teaches a radical alternative. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you ask, "What judgment am I adding to this moment?" Because between the event and your emotion, there's always a pause, and inside that pause is your freedom. This does not mean you ignore reality or tolerate mistreatment. It means you separate facts from interpretation. The fact is simple. Someone spoke, acted, or failed to act. Everything else, the insult, the offense, the meaning, is created inside your mind. Once you see this clearly, something powerful happens. You stop arguing with the world. You stop demanding fairness from people who cannot give it. You stop wasting energy on reactions that bring no benefit. Instead, you regain command over yourself. The Stoics did not aim to eliminate emotion. They aimed to eliminate unnecessary suffering, and anger, more often than not, is suffering disguised as righteousness. The moment you realize that anger is not forced upon you, but generated within you, the spell breaks. You no longer feel helpless. You no longer feel trapped by other people's behavior. You understand a deeper truth. Nothing outside of you has the authority to disturb your inner state, unless you grant it permission. And once you stop granting that permission, anger begins to lose its grip. 2, you mistake. Discomfort for disrespect. One of the biggest reasons anger controls so many people is simple, but deeply ingrained. They confuse discomfort with disrespect. Not every unpleasant feeling is an attack. Not every inconvenience is a violation. Not every disagreement is a threat to your worth. Yet the modern mind reacts as if it is. When something feels uncomfortable, the ego rushes in to defend itself. It labels the moment as unfair, insulting, or unacceptable. And once that label is applied, anger feels justified, necessary even. But Stoic philosophy exposes a hard truth most people never want to hear. Feeling uncomfortable does not mean you are being wronged. Someone challenges your opinion. A plan doesn't go your way. You're ignored, delayed, or overlooked. None of these automatically mean disrespect. Often, they simply mean reality is unfolding without consulting your preferences. The problem begins when your mind adds meaning where none is required. This shouldn't be happening. They should know better. I deserve different treatment. Those thoughts feel harmless, but they are the fuel that turns discomfort into rage. The Stoics understood something modern culture constantly forgets. Life does not owe you comfort. It does not owe you validation. And it certainly does not owe you constant emotional ease. When you expect comfort, every challenge feels like an offense. When you expect agreement, every difference feels like an insult. When you expect smoothness, every obstacle feels personal. This expectation gap is where anger thrives. Discomfort is neutral. Reality is neutral. Your judgment is what makes it painful. A delayed response is not disrespectful. A blunt comment is not an attack. Silence is not rejection. These things become offensive only when your ego insists on being protected at all costs. Stoicism teaches restraint at this exact point. Not restraint of emotion, but restraint of interpretation. Instead of immediately labeling a moment as wrong, the Stoic pauses and asks a different question. Is this actually an insult, or is it simply uncomfortable? That single question creates distance, and distance weakens anger. Discomfort often signals growth, not danger. It challenges your patience, it tests your expectations, it exposes hidden attachments to control, approval, and certainty. Anger, in contrast, is often a defense mechanism for the ego. It flares up when the mind feels its identity, status, or narrative is being challenged. This is why anger feels so personal. It is not protecting the truth, it is protecting self-image. The Stoics refused to let their peace be dictated by minor frictions. They trained themselves to tolerate discomfort without turning it into drama. They understood that reacting emotionally to every irritation is not strength. It is fragility. When you stop demanding comfort from life, something changes inside you. You become harder to provoke. You become slower to react. You become less dependent on how others behave. You begin to see clearly. Most things that upset you are not acts of disrespect. They are simply parts of being alive among imperfect people. And the moment you stop taking discomfort personally, anger starts to lose its justification. Not because the world improved, but because your understanding did. 3. Anger comes from trying to control what you cannot. At the core of almost every angry reaction lies the same hidden impulse, the desire to control what was never yours to control. You want people to behave a certain way. You want situations to unfold according to your expectations. You want life to be predictable, fair, and aligned with your plans. When reality refuses to cooperate, anger appears. Stoic philosophy draws a sharp line that most people spend their entire lives ignoring. There are things within your control, and there are things completely outside of it. Confusing the two is the fastest path to frustration. You cannot control other people's opinions. You cannot control their emotions, timing, or intentions. You cannot control traffic, weather, markets, or outcomes. Yet most anger comes from acting as if you should be able to. When someone disappoints you, anger flares because you expect them to choose differently. When plans fall apart, anger surfaces because you believe the world owed you compliance. When others fail to meet your standards, anger erupts because your mind confuses preference with entitlement. The Stoics called this a fundamental error of judgment. Trying to control what lies beyond your reach is like gripping water in your fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. What remains is tension, exhaustion, and resentment. Anger is not a sign of strength. It is a signal that your mind is fighting reality. And reality always wins. The Stoics offered a ruthless but liberating alternative. Withdraw your energy from what you cannot command and reinvest it where true power exists. Your own responses, choices, and actions. You cannot force someone to understand you, but you can choose how much energy you give to their misunderstanding. You cannot prevent inconvenience, but you can decide whether it becomes a mental prison. You cannot guarantee outcomes, but you can guarantee integrity in how you act. This shift is uncomfortable at first because it requires letting go of the illusion of control. The ego resists this fiercely. It would rather stay angry than admit it was never in charge. But once you release that illusion, something profound happens. Anger loses its foundation. Without the expectation that the world must obey you, there is nothing to fight against. Without the belief that others must behave correctly, there is nothing to resent. Without the demand that life be fair, there is nothing to protest. This does not make you passive. It makes you precise. You stop wasting emotional energy on battles you cannot win. You stop reacting to noise and start choosing your moves. You stop mistaking emotional outbursts for action. The Stoics understood that inner order precedes outer effectiveness. A mind at war with reality cannot think clearly. A person ruled by anger cannot act wisely. Control, in the Stoic sense, does not mean domination. It means alignment. You align your effort with what is actually within your reach and let the rest unfold without resistance. This is why calm people often seem powerful. They are not calm because life is easy. They are calm because they are no longer fighting what cannot be controlled. When you fully grasp this distinction, anger begins to feel unnecessary. Not because situations improve, but because you no longer demand that they do. You reclaim your energy. You reclaim your focus. And in doing so, you reclaim yourself. 4. Every time you get angry, you give away your power. Most people think anger makes them strong. It feels forceful. It feels decisive. It feels like taking a stand. But Stoic philosophy exposes a truth that is uncomfortable to accept. Anger is not power. It is a leak of power. The moment you lose your emotional balance, you stop leading yourself. Something outside of you takes control. A person, a comment, a situation now dictates your inner state. And when that happens, you're no longer acting. You are reacting. Reaction is weakness disguised as intensity. Think about it carefully. When someone knows exactly how to provoke you, they don't need to overpower you physically or intellectually. They only need to press the right emotional button. Your anger does the rest of the work for them. This is why the Stoics viewed emotional reactivity as a form of slavery. A free person governs themselves. A reactive person is governed by circumstances. Anger narrows your perception. It shortens your time horizon. It pushes you toward words and actions you later regret. In moments of anger, people say too much, reveal too much, and damage more than they defend. Power, on the other hand, requires clarity. A calm mind sees options. An angry mind sees only opposition. The Stoics did not praise emotional suppression. They praised emotional sovereignty. To them, the highest form of strength was not the ability to dominate others, but the ability to remain unshaken under pressure. Calmness is not passivity. It is controlled. When you remain calm in situations that provoke others, you gain an advantage most people never develop. You can observe, you can listen, you can decide instead of exploding. And that ability silently shifts the balance of power in your favor. This is why composed individuals command respect, not because they demand it, but because they are not desperate for emotional victory. Anger often comes from the urge to correct, punish, or assert dominance. Yet these urges usually backfire. They escalate conflict, they invite resistance, they make you predictable. A person who cannot be provoked is unpredictable, and unpredictability, when paired with discipline, is power. The Stoics understood that dignity is preserved through restraint, not outbursts. Once words leave your mouth in anger, they cannot be retrieved. Once actions are taken in rage, their consequences linger long after the emotion fades. True strength lies in refusing to let fleeting impulses dictate lasting outcomes. Ask yourself this: who benefits when you lose your temper? Rarely you. Often the situation worsens. Sometimes others gain leverage over you. Anger gives away information. It reveals your triggers, your insecurities, and your attachments. Anyone paying attention can use that knowledge against you. This is why the Stoics trained themselves to pause before reacting. They knew that the space between stimulus and response is where authority lives. When you protect that space, you protect your power. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to rage to be taken seriously. You don't need anger to assert your worth. The more you can stay composed when provoked, the less anyone can control you. And when no one controls your inner state, you stand on unshakable ground. That is real power. 5. Do this one thing. When you feel triggered, most people ask the wrong question when they get angry. They ask how to calm down. They ask how to breathe. They ask how to suppress what they feel. Stoic philosophy asks a different question. How do you stop being captured in the first place? The answer is simple, but not easy. You create distance. Anger does not overwhelm you all at once. It captures you by collapsing time. Something happens, and your reaction follows so fast that it feels automatic. But between the event and your response, there is always a brief window, a moment of choice most people never notice. That moment is where everything changes. The Stoics trained themselves to slow down the internal process before emotion hardened into action, not by fighting the feeling, but by interrupting identification with it. Here is the one thing to do when you feel triggered. Separate yourself from the emotion by naming it. Not explaining it, not justifying it, not acting on it, simply naming it. This is irritating. This is frustration. This is anger rising. The moment you do this, something subtle but powerful occurs. You are no longer the emotion. You are the observer of it. And what you can observe, you can manage. Most people say, I am angry. The Stoic says, anger is present. That shift creates distance, and distance breaks the spell. When you fuse with emotion, it commands you. When you step back from it, it becomes information instead of authority. Anger turns from a driver into a signal. This is why reacting instantly is so dangerous. Immediate reactions feel honest, but they are rarely wise. They come from impulse, not intention. Creating distance does not mean delay for hours. It can be as brief as a few seconds, but those seconds restore choice. Pause. Name the emotion. Refuse to act while it is loud. You are not denying what you feel. You are refusing to let it decide for you. The Stoics understood that emotions are temporary waves. If you do not ride them immediately, they pass. If you jump on them, they carry you somewhere you did not choose. Distance also reveals something most people miss. Anger feeds on interpretation. When you pause, the story weakens. The certainty fades. What once felt urgent begins to look optional. You realize you don't have to respond right now. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to win this moment. That realization restores control. With distance, you regain the ability to choose a response that serves you, not your ego. Sometimes that response is silence. Sometimes it is a boundary. Sometimes it is decisive action. But now it is deliberate, not reactive. This is the Stoic advantage. You don't eliminate emotion. You outgrow its authority. And once you master this one habit, creating distance between stimulus and response, anger stops ruling your behavior. Not because the world stopped provoking you, but because you stopped handing it control. 6. Train emotional detachment until it becomes automatic. Understanding Stoic principles is not enough. Insight without practice fades the moment pressure appears. The Stoics knew this, which is why they treated emotional control not as a belief, but as a skill to be trained daily. Emotional detachment is not coldness, it is not indifference, and it is not avoidable. It is the ability to experience emotion without being ruled by it. Most people only try to control anger when it explodes. By then, it is already too late. The Stoic approach is preventative. You train detachment when things are calm, so it's available when things are not. Detachment begins with observation. Throughout your day, notice emotional movements without intervening. Irritation appears, impatience rises, judgment forms. Instead of reacting, you simply observe. You let the emotion exist without feeding it a story. This trains the mind to tolerate internal discomfort without panicking. The more you practice this, the weaker emotional impulses become. Not because you suppress them, but because you stop reinforcing them. What you do not feed fades. The Stoics often practiced voluntary discomfort to strengthen this muscle. They exposed themselves to mild inconvenience on purpose: cold, hunger, silence, restraint, to remind themselves that discomfort is survivable. Why does this matter? Because a mind that cannot tolerate discomfort will always reach for anger. Anger is often an escape from discomfort, not a response to injustice. It replaces patience with force. When you train yourself to sit with unease, anger loses its function. Another powerful Stoic practice is delayed response, not avoidance. Delay. When something triggers you, you commit to responding later, not minutes later, sometimes hours, sometimes the next day. This delay accomplishes two things. First, it allows emotion to cool naturally. Second, it restores clarity. Many reactions that feel urgent lose all importance with time. What seemed necessary to say often reveals itself as unnecessary. What feels like disrespect often reveals itself as misinterpretation. Detachment also sharpens discernment. You begin to recognize patterns. You see which situations trigger you repeatedly. You notice which expectations create the most tension. This awareness gives you leverage. Instead of being surprised by your emotions, you anticipate them. And anticipation is power. Over time, something remarkable happens. Emotional distance becomes automatic. You no longer need to consciously pause every time. The mind learns restraint the way the body learns balance, through repetition. Calm stops being something you try to achieve. It becomes your default state. This is not because life becomes easier. It is because you become steadier. The Stoics believed that true freedom is internal. Not freedom from difficulty, but freedom from compulsion. When you are no longer compelled to react emotionally, you reclaim authority over your life. Detachment does not make you passive. It makes you intentional. You still act, you still decide, you still enforce boundaries. But now, you do so without anger clouding judgment. And when emotional detachment becomes a habit, anger loses its grip. Not occasionally, but consistently. 7. When nothing can disturb you, everything changes. When you reach the point where anger no longer controls you, life does not become quiet or gentle. People remain difficult, situations remain unpredictable, pressure does not disappear. What changes is not the world, it is your position within it. You stop living in reaction mode. Most people move through life bracing themselves for the next emotional hit. They are always slightly tense, slightly defensive, always ready to be offended or provoked. This constant reactivity drains energy and clouds judgment. When anger no longer rules you, that tension dissolves. You begin to move with clarity instead of urgency. You respond instead of react. You choose instead to explode. This shift changes how others experience you. People notice when you cannot be shaken. They sense stability, even if they cannot explain it. Your calm presence alters conversations, de-escalates conflict, and creates space for reason. You no longer fuel emotional chaos. You neutralize it. This is why emotionally disciplined people often become leaders, even without seeking authority. They bring order where others bring noise. Your relationships change as well. Arguments lose intensity. Power struggles lose meaning. You stop needing to win every exchange because your self-worth is no longer tied to being right or being validated. When you are no longer reactive, manipulation fails. Provocation loses effectiveness. Those who thrive on emotional leverage quickly realize they no longer have access to you. This is not detachment from people. It is detachment from emotional dependence on them. You still care, you still engage, but you no longer surrender your inner state. This internal stability brings something deeper, respect for yourself. Anger often leaves regret behind. Words you wish you hadn't said, actions you wish you could undo. When reactions are restrained, regret fades. You begin to trust yourself under pressure. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Without anger clouding your mind, your decisions improve. You see consequences more clearly. You think long-term instead of emotionally. Your actions become deliberate rather than impulsive. Life begins to feel less chaotic, not because chaos vanished, but because you are no longer adding to it. The Stoics believed that peace is not the absence of disturbance, but the mastery of response. A person who cannot be disturbed cannot be controlled, threatened, or easily manipulated. This does not make you invulnerable. It makes you grounded. You still feel emotions. You still experience disappointment. But nothing hijacks you. When nothing can disturb you, you stop wasting energy on resistance. You conserve it for what matters: growth, purpose, and deliberate action. At that point, anger no longer feels powerful or necessary. It feels inefficient, and once you see anger as inefficiency rather than strength, you naturally let it go. Not because you forced yourself to, but because you no longer need it. You've seen it now, clearly and completely. Anger was never your enemy. The real problem was giving your reactions permission to rule you. Throughout this video, you learned a core Stoic truth. People don't control your emotions. Situations don't steal your peace, and discomfort is not disrespect. Anger rises when you try to control what you cannot, and every time you react without awareness, you hand your power away. But the moment you create distance, observe instead of identify, and choose your response deliberately, that power returns to you. This isn't philosophy meant to stay in your head. It's meant to be practiced. Starting today, notice the pause before you react. Name the emotion when it appears. Delay your response just long enough to choose wisely. Do this consistently, and calm will stop being something you chase. It will become who you are. If this video helped you see anger differently, put it into action this week. Real change happens through repetition, not inspiration. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you want to continue building unshakable inner strength through Stoic wisdom, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay connected. I'll see you in the next video.